Okay, this is my dad's 2001 GMC Yukon, 5.3 liter V8. I believe it has the heavier duty, it has larger 3/4 ton brakes and axles. The calipers are the rear calipers are the dual piston aluminum calipers, and it does, I believe, have the larger axles. I did a rusty brake lines, and replaced it with a Dorman brake line kit. The new brake lines are all, you see, they're stainless steel, beautiful, very nice. Okay, new hoses, but I'm here to talk to you about replacing the spark plugs. So, and I'm here to talk to you about replacing the number 8 spark plug, which is the rear spark plug on the passenger side bank. So how I access the spark plug is I remove the fender liner, and you can see the spark plugs are really easy to get to on the driver's side, okay? So this is 1, 3, 5, and 7 spark plugs, very easy to get to on the driver's side. These are the old spark plugs that came out of it. We're going to talk today about the passenger side spark plugs. 2, 4, 6, and 8 spark plugs. Okay. All right, someone there working on the roof. Okay. And I want to show you something. Okay, so the 2, 4, and 6 spark plugs, not so bad to get it. The number 8 spark plug is really hard to get to. All right. I had to get through it. Really tight to get through. So in order to pull off the boot, okay, in order to pull off the boot here, here's how I did it. I did that from the bottom here. I used a pair of spark plug pliers. Let me show you what that looks like. Okay, these are a pair of spark plug boot pliers, and the spark plug boot was kind of in this direction, so this is how I did it. Pulled out like that, and what I did was I kind of pried it out. So if you look this way, I kind of pried it out like that, and it was, the boot itself was quite difficult to get out. Okay, now let's talk about the spark plug. This spark plug is really hard to get to. This cover, okay, this heat shield is completely in the way. This heat shield covers the AC lines going to the back of the vehicle. All right, and so what I did was I grabbed my gigantic pry bar, okay, and you can see that I have the pry bar. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. Get right in there. You can see I have the pry bar right against that bolt there. Okay, you can see that? What I did was I took this pry bar, I cranked it up, and basically I bent this heat shield upwards to make more room here. Because the heat shield normally hangs down to here. I just bent it up and made more room. It would have been really hard to remove this heat shield. Obviously the heat shield went in before the engine went in, because there's a couple of bolts right buried in the deep firewall. So you can see here that what I did was I have the, okay, you can see here that I had the tip of it right against that bolt, and I had the pry bar, being propped up like this on the brake on the knuckle, and it's exerting upward force on the pry bar, giving me roughly another ½ inch or so of clearance. Now let me show you. Okay, this is the spark plug socket I'm using, and a flex socket going to a long extension, right? And you can see there it fits in just perfectly. It fits in really nicely. Okay, long extension going to my ½ inch ratchet. Now, all the spark plugs were quite tight, and you can see the spark plugs have the original paint in it. So this is a 2001 Yukon with only 158,000 kilometers. All right, and this is the first tune-up. That spark plug was impossibly tight to get out. It was really hard. Now this is where, you know, doing a tune-up and changing spark plug, it seems pretty simple. You're gonna unbolt the spark plug, you're gonna bolt new ones in. I'm gonna tell you right now that doing a tune-up should be left to professionals who know what they're doing. That spark plug was really tight, the tightest one. I could not budge it. I did not want to strip the threads. I did not want to break off the spark plug. So this is what I did. I soaked this thing in penetrating oil, literally drowned the whole area in penetrating oil, left it for an hour or two, okay? And what I did was I used this, I exerted a lot of force, and I moved it a hair, like not even that much, like literally 3 degrees I turned it one direction. Flick it, tighten it for 3 degrees. Flick it, loosen it for 3 degrees. And I did that back and forth 3 degrees, like that, just to work it in. Soak it with more penetrating fluid. Now I move another 3 degrees. And then I go back and forth 6 degrees. 6 degrees, 6 degrees. And then I loosened it another 3 degrees. Back and forth 9 degrees. And it took me, honestly, it took me a good half an hour of just working it back and forth, because I knew I had cracked it loose, but it was still really tight. So working it a tiny bit back and forth, okay, a little more until I feel the threads release. Okay, so if I were to have stripped that spark plug socket, if I were to strip it or damage the threads, you're talking about engine removal or head removal, and it would have just made a small job huge. So you absolutely need to take care when you're taking about a spark plug. Do not use power tools. Do not use an impact socket. Do not use an air ratchet. Nothing. Do it by hand. Get as straight onto the spark plug as possible, and you got to feel it. If it's really tight, you got to take your time and really work that spark plug loose a little, literally a few degrees at a time, until you can feel it really come loose. All right. I've had spark plugs where I've loosened it, but then as I remove it, it tightened up again and it seized again. So guess what? I have to wind it all the way back in, soak it with more penetrating oil, and just work it out the whole way. You really got to be careful working out metal. Here's the spark plugs, right? Spark plugs are steel into an aluminum head. Got to be careful, okay? All right. Now, when you take the spark plugs out, and this is why I say that a tune-up really should be done by a professional, someone who knows what they're doing, because a tune-up is much more than just like replacing the spark plug. You want to look at the spark plug, all right, and you can see, and you want to look at the spark plug. You want to look at the condition of it. These spark plugs are 24 years old. Look at that original paint, okay, original spark plug, all right. And you want to look at the condition of the spark plug, and especially of the electrode. The electrode will tell you basically the health of the engine. If the engine is running too lean, if the engine is running too hot, if the engine is burning oil or getting too much fuel, you will see it on the spark plug, especially if they're old spark plugs. Now you can see the gap here is way too... I don't even have to measure it. The gap is way too wide. But you can see the spark plug has a nice kind of, there's not a lot of buildup. There's not a lot of carbon. I don't see white spots on it. This is a healthy spark plug, right? And you not only want to check one spark plug, you want to check all the spark plugs. They should all look about the same. If you see one or two spark plugs, right, that are different from each other, if you see one or two spark plugs that are different, that is not a good sign. They should all be worn evenly, okay? So inspect the spark plugs as you come out of each cylinder. Can't focus here. There you go. Inspect the spark. That is a perfect looking spark plug, and that gives you a real good indication of how well this engine is running, right? If there's a coolant leak, if it was running lean, running rich, running hot, running cold, burning oil, you will see it on the spark plug, okay? You got to be smart. Like, for example, it's not likely that every single cylinder is burning oil. Okay, if it is burning oil, oil is coming through the rings. It's likely that one or two is coming through the rings. It's not likely that one spark plug, all cylinder heads are leaking coolant or burning coolant. No, it's usually one or two that's burning coolant. So that's why you'll see one or two spark plugs different than the rest. You want to see all the spark plugs looking the same. All right. Okay. So it's a real good diagnostic indicator of what your engine is doing by inspecting, having a real close look at the spark plug. That is a good looking spark plug. Okay. When you put the spark plugs back in, you want to torque them properly, obviously, but also what you want to do is you want to do not use any kind of lubricant or penetrating fluid. Just make sure the threads are dry and clean and you're good to go. Okay. But again, here, this is the number 8 cylinder on a 2001 GMC Yukon 5.3 liter V8. Okay. And you can see how I got this thing propped up. Again, right on the bolt in there. Okay. Propped up with a piece of wood here. And that is applying upward pressure here. I've already bent this. I already bent this bracket, this shield up about maybe half, 3/4 inch. I'm pushing it further with this pry bar, and you can see here that I could get my extension here pretty well, pretty good. Okay, so this works for me. Okay, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. And just for reference, this is a new spark plug, beautiful looking spark plug, nice Bosch product, very cool. Okay. And you can see, you could really see the gap difference between that, okay, I don't even have to measure it, and that, okay, and that is a really good looking spark plug. I'm really confident about this engine, and okay, so anyways, there you go. Good luck on doing your tune-up and maintaining your old GMCs. All right.